Hi students, this is session 5 of Getting to Know Plants. So students, we will continue this session with the shoot system. Students, we discussed that all parts of a plant that are above the ground form the shoot system, and it includes stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. So we studied about stems, and in today's session we are going to continue with this shoot system, in which we will study about one important part of a plant, that are leaves. So let us start with today's session and learn something about leaves. Yes, leaves are known as food factories of the plant. They are located at the nodes of stems and have a characteristic shape and size. So we see many various types of plants around us, but do all the plants seem same? No, they are not all the same. They are all not the same one. Some have small size, while some have big size. Some are tall, some are short, some are broad. Some plants have broad leaves, some plants have narrow leaves or short leaves. So leaves are the structures which are located at the nodes of stems and have a characteristic shape and size. So what can we tell about leaves? Yes, leaf is a flattened and expanded appendage of stem, or we can say that leaf is a branch which develops from its node. Now you must recall this definition, node. What is node? We know that stems have nodes from which leaves arise, right? So we can say that leaf is a branch which develops from its nodes. So it is a very important part of the plant, and it is the seat of very important physiological processes like photosynthesis, transpiration and respiration. Besides these, leaf can get modified into structures for storing food and water, even for climbing and vegetative propagation, etc. So this is just a small introduction about leaves. Now just try to recall the stems and leaves. Yes, they are a very important part of the plant. Now wherever you step out of your house, you see various plants around you. But have you ever observed a leaf very carefully by taking it in your hand? No? Okay, not a problem. We will now discuss about the structure of leaf. It is not so easy that we see the leaf and that is only the structure of leaf and nothing is present inside it. But no, there are some parts of leaf. So now let us study about the structure of leaf. Yes, this is one beautiful picture of leaf. This is the typical leaf. Now here you can see that there are many parts of leaf. So let me write it down for you. This is the picture of a typical leaf, and a typical leaf has three main parts. What are these three main parts? Let us discuss about it. Yes, here you can see many network, or we can say a network of branching veins, which forms a supporting framework and also serves to transport raw materials and manufactured food into and out of the lamina. But what is lamina? Yes, this is lamina. This is lamina. Lamina means the flat green portion of the leaf is called lamina or leaf blade. Okay, then comes the stalk. This is the stalk, or we can say that it is particularly called as petiole. So what is petiole? It is a narrow stalk-like structure that connects the leaf to the stem. So here we have the structure of a typical leaf, and this petiole connects to the stem. It is a narrow stalk-like structure. And then comes the midrib. Now here you can see a continuation of a petiole. This is the continuation line of the petiole, and it is the central vein, the main vein of the leaf, from which the smaller veins grow. So what we call this as? This is called as midrib, right? So it is a continuation of the petiole, and the lowermost part of leaf is known as leaf base, right? So leaf base, or it is also called as the petiole, which is attached to the stem, node, right? So these are the parts of the leaf: midrib, lamina or leaf blade, petiole, and veins. Here you can see that these are veins of the leaf, right? So how can we write it down? Yes, the flat green portion of the leaf is called leaf blade or lamina. Then comes the petiole. What is petiole? A narrow stalk-like structure that connects the leaf to the stem or the stem node, is called petiole. And after this comes the midrib. So how can we define midrib? Yes, a continuation of the petiole, and it is the central vein of the leaf. This is termed as midrib, from which smaller veins grow. So these are the three main parts of a typical leaf. So always remember that leaf base is the lowermost part of leaf by which it is attached to the stem node. It may be expanded as sheath, or it may bear lateral outgrowths. Then petiole is the stalk of the leaf. Leaf can be petiolate, and it may get modified and swell or develop wings, or it can become flat like a leaf. And then comes the lamina or leaf blade, which is a green, thin, flattened and expanded part of leaf with veins transversing through its surface. So the most prominent vein running from base to apex, means to its tip, and present in the middle of the leaf blade is called midrib. Veins provide support and conduct water, minerals and prepared food to all the parts of the plant. So leaf shows a lot of variation in shapes of lamina, in leaf apices, means in leaf tips, and as well as in leaf margins. So this is about the structure of leaf. We know that the blade contains veins, the leaf blade contains veins which help bring in the water necessary for photosynthesis and to transport food out to all parts of the plant. So there are some tissues which are responsible for water transportation and for food, for the transportation of food. So this leaf blade has several layers. The top layer is covered with a waterproof coat, and both the upper and lower layer contain some cells called as guard cells. So these guard cells manage the stomata, which are the little openings in the leaf that allow for the taking in of carbon dioxide and the emission or the release of oxygen during photosynthesis. Even water vapor is emitted in the process. It is released out in the process called as transpiration. So here we can see that a typical leaf performs various important functions. In between the top and bottom layers of the leaf blade are cells that are full of chlorophyll that is essential for the plant to make its food during photosynthesis. So, students, remember that leaves come in a variety of shapes, sizes, color and textures. Leaves can be grouped as simple with one leaf blade, or compound, that means with many leaflets. The edges of leaves can be smooth. They have edges which are referred to as toothed edges. So leaves can also be divided into how their veins are arranged. And there are pinnate leaves which have one main vein called the midrib and smaller branching veins. There are other leaves too which have large veins branching from the leaf base into the leaf blade. So there are some leaves which have special features like spines and bud scales to protect themselves. Some are climbing, means some have tendrils, others catch insects, some store water, some have bulby scales, bulb-like structures to store food. Some leaves contain other substances besides chlorophyll that give the leaf a color, and these substances are called pigments, which cause the leaves to turn colors in autumn season. There are leaves which fall in autumn season, and there are new ones which grow back in the spring season. So we can say that leaf is such a beautiful part, a beautiful structure of a plant which plays a very important role, right? So these are the definitions, and here is one more clear picture of leaf. This is the leaf blade, these are the leaf veins, right? This middle portion is the midrib and the stalk is the petiole. So the flat green portion of the leaf is called leaf blade or lamina. Petiole is a narrow stalk-like structure that connects the leaf to the stem or stem node. Then a network of branching veins forms a supporting framework and also serves to transport raw material and manufactured food into and out of the lamina. And there is a midrib, which is a continuation of the petiole and is the central vein of the leaf, from which the smaller veins grow, right? So That was all about the structure of leaf, but as we discussed that leaves are of various forms and they can also be divided on the basis of whether they have veins in more number or what type of veins they have. So the arrangement of veins in a leaf is termed as venation. This is a very important term, right? Venation. So venation may differ from one type of a plant to another. Here you can see the different types of venation in different types of plants. So now let us discuss about different types of venation which occurs in a leaf. Yes, the first type of venation is the parallel venation. Yes, if the veins run parallel to one another from the base, the leaf base, to the tip of the leaf, then the leaf is said to have parallel venation. For example, banana leaf and onion leaf. There are other leaves too which have parallel venation, but we are discussing only two over here. So this is the beautiful picture of a banana leaf, and here you can see that this is the midrib, central portion of leaf, and these all are veins. These all are veins, right? So if the veins run parallel to one another, here you can see that they are so finely parallel, they are so finely structured. They are parallel to one another from this leaf base to the tip of the leaf. So this leaf is said to have parallel venation, while the other one is reticulate venation. So let us learn about it. Yes, leaves of some plants have veins which are arranged in a net-like pattern. Here you can see in this picture there is a net-like pattern on both the sides of the midrib. This is the midrib, and here you can see that there are veins which are arranged in a net-like pattern on both the sides. This is first side, this is second side. So this kind of venation is called reticulate venation, means it does not run parallel, as an example is people and mango. People and mango leaves have reticulate type of venation, right? So now, can you tell what kind of roots a plant has without digging it up? Yes, it is possible to tell this by looking at the venation. Plants whose leaves have parallel venation have fibrous root. Always remember, the plants whose leaves have parallel venation have fibrous roots, while those with reticulate venation, the plants with reticulate venation have tap roots. So do you remember, students, what are fibrous roots and what are tap roots? Okay, not a problem if you don't remember. Tap roots mainly forms the taproot system, a single root called the primary root which comes out from the seed after germination. So tap roots are also called as true roots, and fibrous roots are present in the fibrous root system which grow from the base of the stem, and they have a bushy appearance. These fibrous roots are thin and they are almost equal in size. So always remember that parallel venation, plants with the parallel venation, leaves with the parallel venation have fibrous roots, whereas those with reticulate venation have tap roots. This is how we can differentiate by looking at the venation. So I hope you are clear with the structure of the leaf and with this venation, parallel venation and reticulate venation. So always remember that arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina is known as venation. It is of two types, reticulate venation and parallel venation. Reticulate venation means veins which forms a network, and parallel venation means veins which are arranged in parallel rows. So now let us discuss about the function of leaves. Yes. So we know that leaf performs the following functions, like photosynthesis, which is the very important function. So here you can see the equation, right? Leaves manufacture food in the presence of sunlight. So what you can see here, this is carbon dioxide. This is just for the information, do not worry. You don't have to cram this equation, just try to understand. Okay, so this is carbon dioxide, which is written as CO2. These are 6 molecules of CO2. So this carbon dioxide comes from the air plus water. Water comes from soil, means water is present in the soil and even minerals are present in the soil. So roots absorb water and minerals from the soil. So the plants get water indirectly from the soil. So there are 6 molecules of water. H2O is water. It is chemical formula of water. And here you can see that with the help of sunlight, carbon dioxide and water, or we can write it down as chlorophyll, with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll, carbon dioxide and water, we get this type of equation. This is the food in the form of glucose, or we can write it down as sugar. So this is the chemical formula of sugar, C6H12O6, plus we get 6 molecules of O2. O2 means oxygen, which is released by the plant into the air or atmosphere. So remember that this is the process of photosynthesis, that leaves manufacture food in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, and with the help of carbon dioxide and water it gets food in the form of glucose or sugar, and it releases oxygen into the atmosphere. So the first function is photosynthesis. Leaves are usually green due to the presence of a green pigment called chlorophyll. As we have learned in previous classes that leaves are also responsible for making food for the plant. The process of making food by the plant using carbon dioxide, water and sunlight is called photosynthesis. Then other function, a very important function of leaf is exchange of gases. So here stomata are the tiny structures or tiny openings present underneath the leaf surface. They help in exchange of gases which are important for respiration of plant and photosynthesis. So here you can see a structure. This open structure or the tiny opening is called as stoma, and this whole structure is that of a stomata, as seen under a microscope. How beautiful it is, right? Then comes the transpiration. Transpiration is also a very important function of leaf. Like the evaporation of excess of water in vapor form takes place through these tiny openings known as stomata. So there is loss of water in exchange of carbon dioxide. So evaporation of excess of water in vapor form takes place through stomata, which helps in cooling of leaf surface. Then comes the modifications for spatial functions. Like in certain plants, leaves perform functions like manufacturing and storing food, providing support and protection, vegetative propagation, and trapping insects. Now you can understand these functions like manufacturing and storing food, providing support and protection. But what is vegetative propagation? Yes, vegetative propagation is a process which takes place in multicellular plants. Multicellular plants means those plants which have more than one cell. So in multicellular plants, what happens that many young plants grow from a parent plant, from its parent plant, and then these young plants, they grow into new plants, and then this cycle goes on and on. So we can say that these plants multiply in number when an individual or the young plant grows. So this process is known as vegetative propagation, right? So these are the functions of a leaf. Plants store food in leaves, fruits and stems in the form of starch. What do we call it as? Starch. So have you ever wondered, students, that how plants breathe? They do not have noses like us, right? Plants breathe with the help of their leaves. Like leaves of most plants have tiny openings called stomata, as we discussed. In singular form we call it as stoma, which is present under their surface. So stomata can be opened and closed. The exchange of gases takes place through these tiny openings called stomata. And leaves also lose water through the stomata. The loss of water through the stomata is termed as transpiration. What do we call it as? Transpiration. So let me write it down for you. Leaves lose water through these tiny openings called stomata, and this loss of water through stomata is called transpiration. Okay? What do we call it as? We call it as transpiration. So transpiration helps the plant in the following ways, like it helps in cooling the leaves, just as loss of water during sweating helps in cooling us or keeping us cool. And second is that when leaves lose water during transpiration, more water is pulled upwards from the roots to compensate for the lost water. So this water brings along important nutrients from the roots which are required by the leaf. Thus transpiration helps in the transport of nutrients within the plant. And transpiration process also plays an important role in the water cycle. So these are some of the very important functions of leaves. Now let us discuss about one more important topic. Yes, leaf modifications. So Here we will see that how can a leaf modify, or in what way leaf modifies, and how important role it plays. Yes, first important role is for support. Leaves of some plants are also modified to form special structures called tendrils. As we discussed, the tendrils help plants to attach themselves to a support. So plants having tendrils are generally weak climbers. And secondly, it is also playing an important role for protection. Like leaves of certain plants modify to form spines. So spines, what will spines do? They will reduce the amount of water lost from the plant. And that is why it protects the plant. So although the function of leaves is to synthesize food, in some cases they get modified into distinct structures to perform special functions like support and protection to the plant, even storage of food and water, or to catch insects in case of insectivorous plants. So a leaf tendril is the thin, wiry, closely coiled sensitive structure that helps the plant to climb, like in pea or glory lily. Then it modifies into spines. Spines means the leaves are modified into sharp and pointed structures which protect the plant and helps in reducing transpiration, means the loss of water from the plant. It helps in reducing the loss of water from the plant, like in poppy plant or aloe vera or punchia. Then there are leaves of insectivorous plants, in which, for example, in pitcher plant, the whole leaf gets modified into pitcher, P-I-T-C-H-E-R, pitcher, while in bladderwort plant, some segmented leaves get modified into bladders, and they help in trapping insects. So these are some of the modifications of leaves which play a very important role for support, for storage of food and water, and for protection. So this is all about one part of shoot system, an important part of the plant, leaves. Right, so we will continue these parts of the plant which form the shoot system in the next session. Till then, keep enjoying. Bye bye.